Yes, people. What's going on? Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to United View. Welcome to a Flex's View, man, because we have to discuss what our captain has been saying. He did a big interview with the press to mark his 300th appearance. You forget how many years Bruno's been here, how many games he's played for us. But anyway, there were some big boy quotes in there, some big information in and amongst it. And I wanted to unpack that. I know it's match day. We don't normally do this, but when the captain speaks, we must listen. We have to understand what's been said and break it down. And some of the top lines I took from it was one, just how committed he is to be here. How much he wants to be here, how much he still wants to achieve here, how much he loves this club, which I've never questioned. And the second one is, which probably should be the first, was this release clause that exists. There's a release clause that we have to talk about. The best part of £56 million as well. So let's talk about that. And also some of the intricacies and the ins and outs about what was happening with that proposed move to Saudi, etc., etc. Now, to most people, I'm going to say, to most fans, I think they will think this is brilliant. This is our captain. This is, one of the top players in his positions. He has been since he's been at Man United, still is. You guys know my feelings on Bruno Fernandes. To some others, they're going to be vexed because they don't rate Bruno Fernandes. They want Bruno Fernandes to hurry up and leave this football club because we're better without him. Now, there's also, it's probably not fair to put everyone in A and B. There's also probably a category that probably does love Bruno, enjoys Bruno, but taking 100 million to invest into the squad into other areas could see that as well. And I've been there as well, thinking if this was the plan for Bruno Fernandes to play him where we're playing him now, should we have just sold him? But when you hear him talk about the club and how much it means to him and what his ambitions still are and what he's turned down to actually stay here, it puts everything into perspective. Let's get into some of the big quotes because there's a lot. The first one, I want to say, is what Bruno said about the Al Hilal, about what they could offer. He said Al Hilal could offer 80 million to 100 million from there. I spoke with the manager. I said, look, this is an offer I have on the table. I have to think about it. If the club says we want you to go because we want to get more players or whatever, the manager said, no, we want more players to help you and to become a better team. So we don't want you to go. So that's the first thing he said. When he went to Ruben, he said, listen, they're offering 80 million euros, 8 million pounds, 100 million pounds. It's all true. It's not hearsay. They're offering a one, mate. If you lot want me to go because you want to invest in a squad and you want to, change things and be able to afford Baleba, be able to afford a Wharton, be able to afford a whatever it is you want, then let me know. And the manager says, no, my friend. We want you to stay and get better players to be with you. You've been putting Man United on your back the whole time since you've been here. He says the offer was very good in terms of salary, as you can imagine. Everything was massive for me. I had the conversations with Al Hilal. Everyone knows that. There were also other clubs that tried after Al Hilal, but my answer wouldn't change. From Saudi, also from Europe. So we had people in Europe as well. I had some people talking to me, but we never got into the place where we would be offering on the table or not. The concrete one was from Saudi. So he's basically saying, with the teams in Europe, I had some early talks to see what they were saying, or my agent probably see what they're saying, but it never got to an offer. The only offer stage was Al Hilal. They increased his contract offer to Bruno. They increased their offer, Al Hilal did, to 40 million euros per year net. Jesus, plus 10 million in bonuses. On the same day he held a press conference to announce he would be staying. So they still tried it. This bit's interesting as well. Jason Wilcox and Omar said, we won't say no. And this is where people need to understand what actually happened with this situation. I'm glad this is being brought up now. We won't say no. So Man United didn't stand in his way. Okay? We won't say no, but obviously we want you to stay at the club. And I think that's where the people who want Bruno Fernandes to leave, that's where they're mad. Because the club expressed their wishes for him to stay. They wanted the club to say, no, we're taking this money regardless of what you decide. And then obviously that would have forced Bruno to leave. There's people that obviously, they wanted our club to force Bruno out and say, it's too good, the money's too good to turn down, you're leaving, bro. Yeah? But the club didn't do that. But they did give the choice to him. They said, but if you want to go, we won't say that it's not a good offer for us, because they're saying, but if you do want to go, bro, we could do with the money, because it's massive money. The club's last biggest sale was probably 20 million for Daniel James. I'm not very sure, says Bruno. Scott McTominay went above that, but to go from that to the big amount that Al Hilal had, they could offer 80 to 100 million. They were going to be eager to pay it. So, it's all there. There was big money on the table. What else? He said some other stuff as well that I thought was really interesting. He says that this is what he said about rejecting them. Money is important to everyone in life, but I'm not in a position where I should be counting my money or having problems in the future if I do things right. Me and my family, we're not people that spend a lot of money. We like to have our luxury and stuff, but we're very aware of how much future we still have ahead of us, how much we want to give our kids, how we want them to grow. We both come from families that were not rich. We never missed food on the table, but we were very aware because we still have family in Portugal. My mum has 9 brothers and sisters. I'm very aware of the difficulties of life. To be honest, when I finish my career, I just want to relax. I just want to relax life in my house, going to the coffee shop sometimes with my father. And this is it with Bruno. He lives a very simple life. His motivation is not bread. Obviously he's on big money at Man United. Rightly so. He's been on big money since he's been at Man United. He's been on a substantial amount throughout his career. Obviously not as much as what he's been at Man United and what his last contract extension would have been. But he's a very rich man. And he's talking about the different motivations of players. He's saying money's not what I judge my thing on. If I play my cards right and make good financial decisions, I never have to work a day in my life again off of what I got now, bro. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. No one knows what his bank balance is saying. But with his endorsements and his Man United paycheck and all of the paychecks he's been having in his career, you could imagine he's pretty rich. But he's saying, me and my family don't prioritize that. Me and my family don't have that on a pedestal as our key to unlock happiness in life. We're happy with what we've got. And he's obviously going to continue to get paid for Man United. He's not saying he's going to pay for free. So the Saudi money, where we hear it and we're like, how's man not taking that? It doesn't faze him. So really what I'm seeing here and what we need to understand what we're seeing here, and this is what I don't think anybody can disagree with. I don't care whether you want Bruno Fernandes to leave or not. This is a player who just really wants to be at our football club. This is a player who's shown that he's good enough to play for Man United. This is a player who's shown that he's committed to play for Man United. This is a player who's shown that he's one of the best in his position in world football since he's been at Man United. I don't care about arms throwing and you're just looking at the stats and this, that and the other. I think in the case of Bruno Fernandes, you cannot argue, in my opinion, that he's not one of the top players in his position. Yes, the eye test, you might like your football being played a certain way. You might like someone to keep more control or not have as much basketball, giving the ball away and stuff. But all the other things Bruno Fernandes gives you in terms of output, it's unquestionable. You can't have that debate. I'm sorry if you call it bias. I'm sorry if you call it, but Flex, you're not listening to the opinions. You think he's rubbish. My opinion is it's total bollocks if you don't see how good Bruno Fernandes is and how good Bruno Fernandes has been. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Will he have bad games? Has he had bad games and stinkers? Yes. Does he do things at times that can hurt the team by giving the ball away in crucial moments? Yes. But what he gives you back the other way in a team, in a Man United since he's been here, that's been on the floor, by the way, in the mud, in the pits of hell since he's been here. In a Man United that looks like that, he's been unbelievable. Never dropped his level, really, let's be honest. Yeah, he has good and bad form like any other person, but when it's all said and done, he does his job. He's a leader. He understands what it is to be a Man United captain as well. If you see what this guy does off the pitch, it's brilliant. He just gets it. And you lot can call it, I say you lot, some people can call it bias because, oh, yo, Fleck, you got press pass, or you just love Bruno because he shows a bit of love to you. And it's nothing to do with that. That's just a bonus. I'm talking about what I see with my eyes as a fan of Man United, of what I want my players to embody. And it is about getting better players around him. Now, what Amorim's decided to do with Ruben, and what he's decided to do with Ruben, don't get me wrong, puzzling, playing him where he's playing him, and Bruno's just got to adapt to it. And he's, probably still going to get goals and assists. I don't think it's the most effective position to be in. I don't think our midfield is the best that it needs to be in. That's a different conversation because, I don't agree with how the squad's been built in this form with Bruno Fernandes still there. We're not getting the best out of him there. And we're hurting ourselves in midfield, partnering with Casemiro. Now, what that will look like in the future, should we go and get a Baleba or a Wharton or whoever and play them next to Bruno Fernandes, maybe it'll look different with a better left wing back as well. As we improve, maybe it could look different and mask some of Bruno's deficiencies in that midfield too a bit more. We'll have to wait to see that. So that I can agree on. It isn't all roses. But for me, I'm just seeing a player putting his heart out there to tell us how much he loves this club. And we want to run him out. Well, some people want to run him out. I don't get it. What is interesting, though, is Simon Stone said this, is this emergence of his release clause. He says Bruno Fernandes' contract includes a release clause that would allow him to join a club outside of England for £56.68 million, provided it is triggered early enough. So that's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. It just says outside of England. It doesn't say the team has to be in Europe. It just says outside of England. So does that include Al Hilal and all that? That 80 to 100 million is obviously gone. But if anyone else wanted to buy him, or if anyone wants to buy him, it's 56.68 million. And if we're honest, it's kind of low. That's kind of low. Bruno Fernandes, if he was on the market, should be worth more than that. Obviously, this is a release clause that they've agreed. They've made it. I think they've probably made it like that because, listen, Bruno's done so much for the club. It's about him being able to get a move should he want to accept another offer from somewhere else, which clearly he's not in the mind frame of doing. But it's very interesting to see that. Teams and you talk about, Harry Kane had to leave Spurs to go and win things, go and win titles. Bruno Fernandes is in a position whereby he gets disrespected because he's played at Man United during this period and hasn't won the big trophies, hasn't won the Premier League, hasn't won the Champions League, hasn't won the Europa League. He's won, what's Bruno won since he's been here? He's won an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup. Is that it? What's Bruno won? Yeah, that's it. The last FA Cup with Van Gaal, obviously he wasn't there in 2016. That was way before him. Europa League with Jose. Obviously, he's only won 2 trophies. Do you know what I mean? So, and they've been in recent history. He's been to 2 Europa League finals and lost. He's been to 3 FA Cup finals because we lost against Chelsea with the Phil Jones thing. He was there then, weren't he? That was at Wembley. Obviously, it was at Wembley. We lost against Chelsea. So he's been to 3 FA Cup finals, I want to say. 1-1. And Carabao Cup, he's only been to 1 final and won that. Off the top of my head. Let me know if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I've got off memory. He hasn't won the big trophies, and it would be a shame that if he had to leave to go Bayern for a year or go Barcelona for a year and go and win some league titles, you know what I'm saying? Because he's good enough to. He's good enough to, do you know what I'm saying? Or go to Juve or Napoli or a team in Italy to go win some titles. Obviously, he played in Italy already earlier in his career. But, it's interesting to see him stay at Man United. That's what's actually counted against Bruno Fernandes. The fact that he stayed at Man United through our worst period, is what essentially has held him back, But he talks about his aim. He goes, my aim is to win the Premier League and Champions League at Man United. I haven't been able to give the success that this club wants and deserves, and also the success that I wanted in my head when I signed for United. So my mission is clear. He wants to be here. He wants to achieve greatness. Why do some people want to push him out? Listen to what the guy's saying. Do you know what I mean? Listen to what he's saying. There was a little bit about what his wife was saying, which we also knew at the time, when she was basically saying, have you achieved what you want to achieve at this club? And he was like, No, I haven't. You know? Here it is here. Bruno Fernandes on his wife's reaction to the Saudi offer. The first thing she said was, have you achieved everything you wanted to achieve at the club? Because she knows I haven't. She knows I haven't. And when I talk about I haven't fulfilled my dreams at the club, it comes a lot from what she said to me. So this is a guy that, you know, you talk about footballers being stable and having that family unit and a strong, powerful, good woman alongside him, a good wife alongside him. That's what he has. That's what he has. And he draws on that influence from his wife to help him make good decisions, you know? And that's how important, you know, women could be in your life. Bruno Fernandes also says on his 300 appearances, which is massive, says it's a privilege and honor. This is far from everything I dreamed about, you know. I just wanted to play football when I was a kid, and now getting into this club and having the chance to play 300 times for this club is something I'm very, very grateful for. So look, I think my key takeaways are, this is a player who wants to be here. I don't agree necessarily with how Amorim's using him, but Bruno, the individual, I'm more than happy for him to stay here. I just wish that we could get the tools that are needed to help him even more, and others, which is what Jason Wilcox and them guys said about, and the manager said about not accepting the Saudi offer. We want to get better players to help you. Well, essentially, they've done that in Cunha and in Mbeumo and taken the load off Bruno. Maybe at the detriment of Bruno, don't get me wrong, but they have done that straight away. And look at Mbeumo and Cunha now. We're looking at them proud, saying they're Man United players. That's good. We're linked with top midfield players. When we get them, they will help Bruno. So let's just hang in there on Bruno, man. Don't lose faith, man. The guy's incredible. He loves our football club. Most of us all love him. There's only a few people that don't rate him and think he's overrated and think he's always been poor. That's fine. That's fine. Everyone can have their opinion. But from me, Bruno, El Capitano. Yeah, I don't even know if that's how you say it, but big up, man. And there's this 301st game today. Hopefully he marks that with a trademark goal or celebration, man. There you go. Smash the like on the video. Let me know what you're saying about the Bruno situation. I know not everybody agrees. Everyone's got different thoughts and feelings on it. And I don't want to speak for everyone. I just had to give my unequivocal opinion on that. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And check out the road trip later on as well, as I'm on my way up to the game. The big one against Brighton tonight at 5:30. Take care. Peace.